All right, here in beautiful Atlantic Beach for the next drainage project. And this is a very common issue that I have to resolve, where the water is filling up here with a rock and it is making the backyard totally unusable for the family here. And they have dogs, so when it rains it gets all muddy. You can't let the dogs out because it just turns into a disaster. Where the rock is the lowest point, so that's where in this case we'll have to install a sump pump, because the neighbors all are very close. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 houses, and there's no gutters. So all of the water comes pouring into this low spot here and just turns into a lake that just sits for, I think they said, over a day sometimes, depending on how much it rains. So at the low point, I'm going to put the sump pump from that point to the corner. We're going to install rock to landscape to cover the area to give it an attractive finish, and that will allow the water to go directly into the rocked area and down into the sump pump, so that it can be pumped out to the front yard. So I'm just going to explain where it's going. This is where the sump pump will be installed. This whole area will be covered with rock, and then that pump will pump that water out straight out here. It will go under the fence and it'll come straight down to the curb right here. All right, so that's the before, and it'll be a little pop-up for the water to come out and ooze out to the curb and then go down into the storm drain, which is right over there. All right, so that's how you got to get rid of that overflow of flood if you have it in your backyard. All right, stay tuned. This is the before. Beautiful day in Atlantic Beach. Okay, quick update, and now the sump pump hole has been dug, and you're probably trying to figure out what you're looking at as I zoom out. This is the sump pump where it will be installed, and this area has been smoothed out. This will all be covered in rock, so that the rock will allow the water to filter down into the pump. The pump will send the water down the trench to the front, and that will remove all of the water that has been pooling up in this backyard. I got to remember to show all of the steps. Sometimes I get going and I forget to show all the steps because I explain this so many times. So I have to make a video so that people can look at the video and know how the process goes. And then it will come out here and there will be a little irrigation pop-up. So stay tuned for the next step. Okay, so the pop-up drainage is in, and this is right here by the curbside. So the water will come out of the sump pump right here to the curb and then go down into the city street drain. So the 1 inch goes all the way back to the pump. I'm not going to walk all the way back to the sump pump. It's not very it's not too exciting. Just wanted to show you what it looks like. This is the outlet of the sump pump, and what happens is the water pressure from the pump, it will force this up, and the water just trickulates out and goes into the ditch and down the street, instead of sitting in your backyard causing a mini swamp. All right, so that's how that works. Stay tuned. Okay, we had some liquid sunshine, and this is a good opportunity for you to see exactly the problem that's happening back here. And the rain has instantly filled up what was the lowest spot in the yard, so that's where the sump pump is going. And you can see this backyard, they said this whole area would normally fill up with water, but since the sump pit is basically a dry well, since that's been dug, the water has physically went down in there. So now that water would be pumped into, you can see the line there, that water is going to be pumped out of the pit into that line and out to the street. So this is a good opportunity to help you understand how this all works. Now, gotta get this water out of here so I can get everything lined with the fabric, get a little bit of fabric in. I'm gonna get the fabric in so we build a barrier between the dirt and the pump, so that the pump only pumps water. We don't want the pump to be pumping a lot of dirt, because that could lead to erosion and also more wear and tear on the pump. We don't want the pump pumping rocks and sticks and stuff. We only want it pumping dirt. So we only want it pumping water. So everything's going to be wrapped with fabric before the pump goes in. Stay tuned. Okay, so now I have all of the fabric that's putting a barrier between the dirt and where the pump will go. So this is going to keep all that dirt from getting anywhere near the sump pump. Stay tuned. Had to pump all that water out of there. So now it's just the fabric, and I'm going to put the pump together and set it in place. Okay, quick update. So now the sump pump is set in place. You can see the sump pump, the basin, the container for the sump pump is also wrapped in fabric. This prevents the rock. We don't want any rocks to get inside of where the sump pump is. Nothing should get inside of the container where the sump pump is except for water. So we have the outside barrier to stop dirt from getting in there. We have an inside barrier to stop the rocks. All of this vacant area will be filled with rock because we want water to come in here, and then the water trickulates through into this basin area, and then it is pumped out. So you can see I've just kind of roughed in the pipe, and that goes all the way out to the street. So just want to kind of show you that. So now I'm about ready to do a test. Stay tuned. Okay, now it's time for the moment of truth. In order to test the sump pump, I'll fill it up here with this garden hose, and you can see the float valve will slowly rise. That's the little float, and it will push up that little middle rod, that little rod that's in the middle. That's the switch, that little, the black float, that little float thing. That's the switch, and as it's rising, you can see the water building up in here. As it's rising, eventually it'll reach to a height, and there it is. It kicks on, and the water is driven out down the line up to the front. And that's what's going to keep the water below the surface. So as the water pours in from the whole yard, it goes down in here. As long as that water is above, it's high enough to keep that valve, to keep that float up, that pump will keep running. So it will take just a matter of moments to get rid of a huge downpour of rain. So I don't have a downpour of rain right now. Even though it's supposed to rain later today, maybe I'll be able to come out and look at the outlet of it, because I'm going to cover this with rock, so I won't be able to dig it up again. I'm going to cover this all with rock, so from a landscaping standpoint, it will have the most attractive look. But we will be able to see, I think we'll get a torrential downpour, and then as the water fills in this general area, it'll go down in there and get pumped out, and then you'll see where it used to be. They said the water would go as high as the deck back here. They said that water would pile all the way up to the bottom of that deck board. So when that water comes in like that, this pump's going to come on, and in a short amount of time, you see how quickly it moves that water. So I'm just going to let you check that out one more time live. And this is a 3/4 horsepower pump. And that little side spray that you see on the side, that is intentional. That's part of the installation. It has a 3/16 hole that's intentionally there. I believe it helps the pump breathe, but it's part of the installation. That's when you see that water spraying out the side there. So that is how the sump pump works. And what I want to do is show how it works, how it looks on the outlet side. So I want you to see the water as it comes out of the pop-up that's out by the curb. Stay tuned. Okay, I kind of caught it. So you can see the water coming out of the pop-up there. That's how it looks. I caught it right at the end. I need to wait again to catch it at the right perfect timing. Stay tuned. Okay, and this is what it looks like at the outlet. So you can see it pops up. The force of the pump is what forces that to pop up. And the water, as it's coming out, it flows out, and when it's done, it closes back down. And that's where you never have a problem with hitting it with the lawnmower. And then the water just goes down where it's supposed to go, into the city drain, instead of sitting in your backyard causing a nuisance. All right, so this is one of the most sore problems that people have. They have issues with drainage, and the solution that many people are not aware of is to install a sump pump. If you don't have anywhere to move the water to, you have to put in a pump, and this is how that functions. Stay tuned. Okay, quick update. So now I'm at the step where I'm covering everything with the rock. In this case, just using a utility gravel, because this is a functional drain. I wouldn't recommend the decorative rock in this situation, because you don't want that rock to get all stained, because there's a ton of water that's going to be going through this drain over time. So I recommended the gravel, the medium-sized gravel, granite. And so all of this will be smoothed out, and the sump pump will be covered by the gravel. In the future, if it needs to be serviced, it can be raked back to get to the cover, and just go down in there and do whatever you need to do. All right, stay tuned. All right, so here is the after, and the gravel has been smoothed out. You can't see the sump pump or the lid. Everything is covered. When the water comes in and fills in the low spot, it'll trickle down into the sump pump basin, and it will be pumped out. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe and share this video to any of your friends that have issues with drainage in their yard. For a free quote, FloridaProLawnCare.com. Till next time, peace.